something for you that somebody does something for you that you didn't necessarily want it. Like Aaron is nice enough; he sends me over a cowboy steak. I didn't want a cowboy steak. What do I have to? What is that? Type I have to him for it? Like I don't want a cowboy steak.
Send it to me.
I wasn't. Yeah,
send it to me, and I'll have the kosher type for you.
I wasn't interested in it or anything. Like what?
So you're saying that meaning?
I will send you another cannoli. Fine.
I told you where to get the cannolis, right?
One second.
Yeah.
Rabarin, and did I bring you one?
Yes, you did. That's why I used you as a marshal.
There you go.
So but you're saying like, why do I need to live in this world? This world is hard enough to keep the mitzvahs, right? So why are you giving me all the nisyonis, right? Like you're saying with the Machlokes, Beis Shamai and Beis Hillel, whether it's better not to have been born, right? And everybody maybe
subconsciously I'm saying that. Yeah, could be.
Yeah, that's where with some of that's where you're coming from. I mean, it's a good kasha. I was wondering it myself, like, but the only way I'm thinking to understand it is that, well, in this world, you get the opportunity. Meaning, if you wouldn't be born in this world, so you won't be ever have an opportunity to be in the world that's the next world, which is forever, right? So even though right now we may think, okay, yeah, but the bottom line is if you take the cheshbon as in the next world, then he did you a big favor by letting you be born. At least you're playing in the game. You're not like that the frum guy who's a reserve who never gets in the game, the guy that plays on Shabbos. I don't know. That's what I think. That's what I think is the pshat.
Okay, fine. Very good.
All right. That's okay. But anyways, that's the first thing that we have to remember. We got 29 more things to remember, Bez Hashem. Okay. Now we get right into some big hawk. This is if Marchuk is not on, right? We have like probably one of the most famous runs in the Nedarim for sure, and really in all of Shas. Really in all of Shas is coming up. So let's see. So we're starting by the Mishna on Chav Zayin Amud Beis.
I guess you made it more famous today.
I tried. Yes, in the halacha text. Okay, so neder. No, I couldn't pass it up. It's now this Mishnah right off the bat is wild. Just the pasha pshan in the Mishnah. Neder, you're allowed to make a neder laharagin to people that come to kill. Right? These are Jewish people, the Ran says. These are Yidden. This is not the famous Ran, but this is a Yidden that are killers, right? And as weird as it sounds, they keep the rest of the Torah. They just kill. I mean, you can't even, I don't know what that means exactly, but that's what they do. They're killers, but you can bribe them with money, but they keep the rest of the Torah. So you're allowed to make a neder to them. L'charamin is people that would not kill, but they're just crooks. Ulamaichsin is people that collect tax collectors. So what can you do? You're allowed to make a neder, shehi truma, that it's truma, meaning they're coming to take your food, and you tell them, you can't take the food. I already made a neder that it's truma. So they say, oh, it's truma. We can't touch truma. You know what I mean? So then they won't touch you. So you're allowed to lie. Avabi shein is shein a truma, even though it's not truma, right? Or you can say another one, shein.
What do you need this Mishnah for? Well, this part of the Mishnah anyway. What do you need this for?
What are you saying? It's to be
Why
pushed.
would I think I can't lie? Chas v'shalom, somebody's coming to kill you, and you can get out by telling the lie. Like, what would I think? What?
No, because you see, so that's a good ha'ara. That's a good ha'ara. You're not saving your life here. They're not going to take your life. They're going to take all your food.
You said lahargin.
Yeah, right. But they're killers if you don't give them food. If you give them food, they come to your house. They say, "Give me all your belongings, and we'll let you live." It's like, give me what do they call when to hold up your money or your life?
Okay.
So you say to him, "Oh, my money or my life, so I'm going to make a neder that money is kachim." They say, "Oh, it's kachim, we can't have it." Okay, so then they let you go. So your life wasn't in, it was in danger, but it wasn't in danger because you can get out by lying, you can get out of the danger. You're 100% right. If to save your life, you could lie. But here you don't have to, you don't need to save your life, you're just saving your belongings, your food. And so therefore you're allowed to lie, which is a big chiddush, as that comes out, that one is allowed to lie even to save his belongings. Which, okay, once we start with that.
Where does that come? You know, we learned that you're not allowed to take the kama because everything's to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you can't be mad at the guy.
This is not a kama.
I understand it's not a kama, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent them to take your stuff and you're stopping them.
We're not talking about that. We finished
with
the
a
Musa
lie.
tonight. We finished the Musa. That's a different shia.
And Naftali, it's not to say
go put on one of the thought of a day shia or Naftali if you're interested in that.
Anyway, yeah, no, Naftali, you're allowed to try and protect your stuff. This didn't happen. If it already happened, it already happened. Here you're trying to protect yourself.
Right, but what's the lie?
That's right. So we're saying you're allowed to lie to protect your money. Yes, 100%. Now, not only that, it said you're allowed. It doesn't say like the other Mishnayos. I forgot whose Zara this was. The other Mishnayos say if you did it, it's a shaila whether it's a lechatchila, b'diavad. It's saying do it. This Mishnah is saying neder. You can make the neder. It's not saying if you did it, we're not going to smack you. No, do it. It's saying do it. Lie to them. Right? And another lie you can do is, I'll tell you a practical case that comes up. Well, soon, let's just get to the Gemara. Beis Hamelech. Let's say he says, oh, it belongs to the king. The food belongs to the king. Even though it's not from the Beis Hamelech. So, because they don't want to tick off the king, right? If they think that this stuff really belongs to the king, so then they don't want to tick him off. So those are two ways that you can lie. Fine. So Beis Shamai, oh, and so I was listening to Rabbi Rosner today because I wanted to. Today I made sure to listen. I listened well, even though I fell asleep once when listening to him. I made sure to listen again because I had to hear the YU take on Dina dimalchusa Dina, which we'll get to. But Agav, he said the Meiri, and I didn't have a chance to look at the Meiri. He said the Meiri says this is not such a lie because everybody's a king in their own house. I mean, I can't say. I don't know nowadays. I don't know nowadays.
What the Meiri watched Ralph Cramden?
I don't know. I guess so. I guess so. So the Meiri says that everybody's a king in their own house, so it's not such a lie. Again, I didn't look up the Meiri, but it sounded very interesting. I got to try and still look it up today. But he had said that over, which is quite an interesting Meiri if that's the case. Yeah. So if I have to darshan a cousin's daim l'melech, I got myself a little speech. I hope the daf takes. I hope
Didn't
the daf
Haman
takes long
say that
enough
also?
That's true. That's true. Haman said it too. Got him into trouble. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Well, Aaron, Ralph Cramden learned the Meiri.
It must be. Or the guy that wrote it.
Wasn't the other way. It wasn't. He didn't. It wasn't the other way, like you said.
That's very good. I see you're a student of history, Aaron.
Anyway, okay, so that's that Machlokes. So I mean that's not a Machlokes. That's pasha. You're allowed to lie to save your money. We'll get back to that in a minute. Beis Shamai, you're allowed to make any type of neder. Right? You can make it as hekdesh. You could say it was hekdesh. You could say it's stam neder, whatever it is. On Talmud Aleph. Now, chutz mi b'shvu, you're not allowed to swear though. Swearing is already much more chomer, as we know, right? Shvu is more chomer than a neder, so shvu you're not allowed to make, but you can make a neder. Beis Hillel says you could even make a shavua. Right? So the question is, what exactly does that mean? All right. We'll see in the Gemara. We'll see in the Gemara how that goes. Beis Shamai, another machlokes. Beis Shamai lo yiftach le neder. You can't offer him a neder. This is a big nafkamina, even though we obviously don't pass like Beis Shamai. Beis Shamai says you can't say to the guy, "You want me to make a neder that this belongs to the king or truma?" You can't do that. If he says swear, not swear, promise, however you say neder, say neder. Then you're allowed to do it, but you can't offer to make the neder as a lie. That really limits the kula. Beis Hillel says you're even allowed to offer to make the neder. Beis Shamai, I remember another chumrah of Beis Shamai. You're only allowed to make the neder based on what he asked you to make a neder on. Meaning, well, the Gemara is going to say what the example is. But Beis Shamai says only what he asked you, since Beis Shamai holds that you can only make a neder if he asks you to make a neder, you could also only make the neder on what he required. But Beis Hillel, you can even add to the neder. What does this mean? What's the case? Omar loy, if the crook says to him, Emor koinem ishti, honestly, promise that if you lied, then you're not going to get hana from your wife, right? Or that your wife won't get hana from you, right? Promise that. Va'amar koinem ishti ubanai. He says, you know what? I'll one up you. I'll not only will I swear on that I'm not going to benefit my kids, my wife, I'm also not going to benefit my kids. So Beis Shamai ishtay muteres. So after the guy leaves, and we know that he lied, obviously, the one who was going to get stolen from, ishtay muteres, his wife is muter ubanav asurin, and his kids are assur, because he should not have added his kids into the mix. Beis Hillel says they're both muter. Right. So meaning you see that if the Machlokes is is he meaning how Beis Shamai basically is saying that you're only allowed to do what's necessary. You are not allowed to voluntarily do anything. And Beis Hillel says you can do whatever you need to do. Right, so that's the Machlokes in the Mishna. Fine. Now a case of saving yourself from damage that I find comes up a lot is when a guy knows that insurance should cover something and they have a legal loophole. Everybody's had these scenarios, I'm assuming, either medical insurance or car insurance, and really they should cover it. And they say, oh, you missed the cutoff for the this and the that, meaning you know that you're really entitled to it, and they're just ripping you off. So the question is are you allowed to lie in order to get money that's rightfully yours? Right?
So
I'm not saying a stock situation
justify the means.
Well, from here it sounds like if somebody's going to come take your money, and you're allowed to lie, you're even allowed to make a neder, which is much stronger than a lie. You're allowed to lie to get what's rightfully yours, right? So sometimes that's what you have to do in this crazy insurance. In the crazy insurance thing. What?
This is the key, this is to keep what's yours. The case of the Gemara is to keep what's yours.
Right. So if I'm negotiating with the bank, I'm allowed to, change the rent roll numbers. What does that mean?
Well, honestly,
that's what they're investigating Trump. They're investigating Trump.
No, because he's saying it's not rightfully yours, Aaron. He's saying if someone's cheating you out of your money. You
can't. What do you want to? Oh, you want to inflate the rent roll so that somebody pays you more money for the building?
Yeah, it's rightfully yours, but it's not.
No, it's not rightfully yours. If you don't have it rented out, how can you go tell the guy it's rented out when it's rightfully yours? We're talking about when legitimately it's right. You're gonna say rightfully yours because really, I should have the money, and Hashem said I'm gonna have the money. Oh, so it's rightful? No, that's not rightfully yours.
I was just explaining Aaron. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it.
I appreciate it.
I was just explaining Kaplan's point of view.
Yeah. Anyways, whatever it is, so that's.
But see, does the robber know that this robber is not Grace Tzaddik as well? Does he know that? Everyone knows that when it comes to Nedarim, if your lave is not the same thing as what you're thinking, the neder is not chal, which is how he's kind of circumventing this whole neder. Meaning, forget about the fact that he's forced. He's obviously not having in mind that it should be real. So should the robber know that? He's a Grace Tzaddik.
Devarim Shebelev, what does that mean? That's acceptable.
It has to be mechuven. We say.
We're gonna see it in the Gemara in a minute. In a few lines, we'll see it in the Gemara. Okay, so let's start with the Gemara. This is the major part of the Gemara right here. So Gemara says, "V'amar Shmuel Dina dimalchusa Dina." This is a kash on the third. The third case is the tax collector. We could have just sped over that, right? But the third case was a tax collector, and you're allowed to lie to the tax collector. That's what it says in the Mishna, right? The tax collector, you could lie to get out of giving him the taxes. A guy comes to collect your taxes from your fruit. You say, no, I'm a not-for-profit. Right? It's hekdesh.
Yeah, but it's different. It was different taxes. It was a different taxes in the time of the Gemara.
Right, but the Gemara, from the Mishna, just says taxes. So that's the Gemara's kasha. V'amar Shmuel Dina dimalchusa Dina. The din of the din of the kingdom is a din. So how can you go cheat? Right? So that's the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara says, Amar Rav Chinana, Amar Rav Kahana, Amar Shmuel, b'mayches she'ein lo kitzvah. We're talking about a tax collector who was not given any sort of set amount that he's allowed to collect. Right? Meaning, what happens is the king, it's interesting because it sounds like from this, don't they have this in the government now? Like sometimes they'll instead of the government running something, they'll sell it to the private, and the private just has to pay the government, and then they take care of it. Like I think they want to do it at the Kennedy Airport. They're talking about doing it. Something
I
taken private.
I see it
It's
all the
almost
time.
like a franchise.
It's called the ground lease.
Yeah, whatever it is, something like that. So as a franchise, whatever it is, but the government
Chicago
just,
has that. They sold their street rights. That means there's a private guy who owns the right to charge for like parking your car in certain areas of Chicago. And now he owns the rights to that, and he can just raise prices whenever he wants on that.
right. So that's exactly
That's mamish how it is.
But that's, right.
Yeah,
Well, Chicago is
Chicago's
not
as
exactly
normal as
known
it was
for
in Belleville 2,000 years ago.
Chicago. I'm saying
There are
Chicago's not
there are a lot
exactly
of guys.
known.
There are a lot of guys trying to sell the Brooklyn Bridge these days.
Yeah, but he wouldn't make much money on it because there's no tolls on it.
Right.
That's the biggest joke.
Yeah, but so that's exactly it. So since it was given out to this guy, and they told him, listen, you bring back this and this amount of money in taxes. He can go collect a 1,000 from one guy and $2 from another guy, and so without any rhyme or reason. So Mela, you can try and weasel out of him taking the tax from you. Are a different teretz, but it's talking about he would what do you call it? How you call it? He's an independent contractor, of collecting taxes. Right? So Mamela, he was appointed by the king, but he's basically working on his own. Or he bought it from the king, whichever one it is. Bottom line is it's not going directly to the king. Now, let's just do this round inside, just because it's such a major round, because it comes up so often with all these Dina dimalchusa, Dina shilas. So see the round b'maychas time in me'elav. It's around 5-6 lines down in the thin lines. It's talking about b'maychas. It's come the tax collector that's independent. Shaloi b'mitzvah samelach. He's not commanded by the king. Yeah. Because of the Taisus, the dafka b'malchi oivdei kechavim amar the Dina dimalchusa Dina. It's only by a goyish king. Bottom line is the king owns the land. He is the owner of the land. Memela, you want to stay in my country, you got to listen to my rules. If you don't keep my laws, I'm going to throw you out. Meaning he owns it. It's his. It's essentially like living in a guy's house and saying, hey, I'm not listening to what you have to say, so get out. But in Eretz Yisrael, you wouldn't be able to do this. Eretz Yisrael, call Yisrael shutfin, but every yid has a shutfis in Eretz Yisrael. So Mela, there's nobody in charge of it, which now explains to you why when you go to Eretz Yisrael, every guy thinks he's in charge, right? I think this is the pshat. Because it is. Everybody has a shutfis in Eretz Yisrael.
But Yaakov, so how does that work? Didn't the king, wasn't historically the king able to go ahead and tax people? Isn't that what Shmuel warned Klal Yisrael when they wanted a king? He said the king's going to be able to do all this, including taxing them, and he's going to be able to do eminent domain. So what does that mean? What Shlomo HaMelech was famous. He overtaxed the population. That was part of the Dina about. So what does that mean? How is he able to do that if Klal Yisrael shuts with him on?
I don't know how he's allowed to do it. I really don't know.
But Shmuel Navi himself said that's what he has the power to do. Right, he could take your land. He could do all this different stuff. He warned Klal Yisrael when they wanted a king.
I hear. I don't know how to work that with the history. I don't know, but that's the way he's saying. Now, not everybody agrees to the.
I'm saying right. It seems like it's only a yay shayim, but
yeah, that's true. Like, there are many are chaylik on the run.
I'm just saying I would.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. I hear how the history. I don't know how it works. So here's the thing, though. There is a major paisik who I can't say because this goes on to YouTube, and he got in trouble once for this. There is a major paisik who holds that any democracy does not have Dina dimalchusa Dina because nobody owns it. And therefore, there is no Dina dimalchusa Dina in America, and therefore one is allowed to fudge his taxes, etc., etc. If those
But
are
see,
aware,
Yaakov, they bring down from the Rashbam the exact opposite in Bava Basra. That the whole
yeah, okay,
idea
because
of
he's chaylik
taxes
on this
because
whole
you all
concept.
agree to the law.
Correct.
America,
correct.
Jacob, America is not a democracy. America is a constitutional republic.
Same difference
Whatever
in
it is,
regards to
but
this
nobody
halacha.
owns it. However you want to define it, I don't know enough history like you, but it's however, right? I'm sure Shmuley is going to weigh in on this, but it's whatever it is, nobody owns it. It's not privately owned. That's the point, right? From this Ran, it's clear that the reason is because the king owns it. You want to live in my country, you have to listen to what I have to say. So Dina dimalchusa Dina. Mashma, if there's no owner, like in Eretz Yisrael, according to the Ran, then you don't have to keep Dina dimalchusa Dina, and you have to just keep the Torah's dinim, and that's it, right? Now most of chaylik on the shita, but it's based on this Ran, right? Anyways, so yeah, so that's, and then I mean, there's other shitas also. Where does Dina dimalchusa Dina come from? Some say that it's a braysa. Some say it's the rabbanon. There's no Dina dimalchusa Dina between Yidden. A lot of poskim hold it's just only between Yidden and Goyim. And one thing for sure, Dina dimalchusa Dina does not take the place of the halacha. So when I posted this halacha tonight, that Dina dimalchusa Dina doesn't overtake. So a guy, he must be divorced. Said, okay, so if the government doesn't let me have rights to see my kid, right? Am I allowed to? If halacha says I have a right, and it's just that the courts said not, do I have a right to not listen? It's like, oh, I'm not touching this one. I said, I don't know. That's above my head. But that's another thing. Do the courts, when the court tells you something, is that Dina dimalchusa Dina, or only when the government says? Meaning, when it's a law, right? There's another shaila. Meaning, a judge says something. Does that mean that he has the Dina dimalchusa Dina? Then let's say you don't want to listen to the judge.
That's a big,
Yaakov,
that's a big,
they're
that's a big, what
empowered,
you just told Aaron is right. That's a big thing in America. It's a very big thing. There's three branches of government. Yeah, very big. It's very, very big.
But see, Yaakov, I don't know what that means. The whole power of the court is based on the fact that it was decided by the government that that's the way it would be. The courts were empowered by the government, right? The government writes the Constitution, and the Constitution gives power to the courts. So we're going in a circle here. So what's the difference?
Right, that's true. That's true. But the question is, do the courts have a right to make up a law? Meaning they have a right to enforce. They're not making up laws.
Courts can't make up laws.
No, sometimes they do.
No, that's against the Constitution. The Constitution says courts interpret laws. They have no right to make a law.
Correct. But if a judge says, I don't know, that you have to pay a fine for this and this and this, right?
It's based on law.
Correct, but he decided. Sometimes judges can decide on their own of how much a fine they want you to give. There's no guidelines. So the question
but they have the power to do that from.
No, it's not true, because you could appeal it. You could appeal it, et cetera, et cetera.
And at some point, the appeal stopped because the government says the courts have final say when it comes to that. Yeah. So what's the difference? It's like an agent, unless he's being egregious. It's like the Ron says over here that it's like an agent that's empowered. He buys the rights to go ahead and collect taxes. Why is he any different than that? Right. He has the power from the government.
I hear. Okay, yeah, could be. I'm saying it's a shiloh. The next cool, and then we have to go.
Why did you say Eretz Yisrael? Some say it doesn't apply. Well, we just said America doesn't apply either. The same.
I'm not. You think, Naftali? You think I'm going to text out on the internet, on Twitter, that you can cheat on your taxes in America? Seriously? Do you?
No, I just wanted. I wanted to understand if I missed something about Eretz Yisrael. If I understood what you were saying.
No. It's the same. It's the same lump.
Right. I just wanted to make sure I understood it.
You just said it on YouTube, though.
There you
just said it on YouTube.
You just came on. You missed the whole Akdama that this is from the most famous Rans in Shas. We said it for you, but you weren't on yet. Anyway, but there's another interesting thing. How about speeding? Are you allowed to speed? Right? So it seems like the maskanas of most poskim is that if they don't enforce it, then there's no dina dimalchusa. If the government,
talking about
if it's
in the
law,
car?
you can. We're talking about in the car or anything.
What does it mean they don't? They do enforce that you get tickets. What do you mean they don't enforce?
Up to like 10. Let's say on a highway, anything less than 10 miles an hour, nobody's giving a ticket. Nobody.
Oh, okay.
As far as I know. Meaning, so therefore, most.
So that's what you're
I'm not talking
about.
Excessive speeding. Excessive speeding is probably assur al sakana, but that's what I'm saying. But even if you want, meaning people ask, can you speed? It's dina dimalchusa. So most places can say if the malchus doesn't enforce it, then there's no dina dimalchusa. Now, again, risking whatever. So the malchus seems not to enforce that. Now, not reporting cash on your income tax returns. It seems like you get paid cash, they let it slide. At least, but it could be that the only reason why they let it slide is because it's impossible for them to police it. But if in a tax thing, people ask this a lot, can they fudge the taxes? Can they write this? They write that. So what I personally answer them, I said, if there's any sort of loophole that could possibly work, whether you agree to the loophole or not, then l'chayra it's mutter, because if they let it slide, then that means it's not dina dimalchusa. Right? That's what I'm pretty sure most places can say that. It's only what they enforce. If they don't enforce it, it doesn't have the severity of dina dimalchusa dina. Right? So that's also a major kula. Okay. Anyways, okay, we gotta go back. It's a little late. So fine. So then the Gemara says, Shehein shel Beis Hamelech, v'al b'she'ein shel Beis Hamelech. So he said another way you can make a neder is that the things that they want to steal from you belong to the king. Sehechi nodar. What kind of neder is he making? Right? We said that what's the difference between a shavua and a neder? A shavua, you can swear that this and this belongs to the king. Fine, but you're making a neder what? I'm making a neder that this belongs to the king. That's not a neder. A neder has to be something tangible, like the Mishna says. I'm making a neder that I will not get hana from my wife if this thing doesn't belong to the king, right? So the Gemara says, "Hechi neder." So let all the fruits in the entire world be assur to me if this stuff doesn't belong to the king. So the Gemara asks, okay, if that's the case, even though Yesru, if he said it should be assur, it's rolei kol perilam. He made the neder, right? It's a very interesting question the Gemara is asking. The bottom line is, why can't you keep your neder? You made the neder in order to keep your belongings. Good, so you made a neder, keep your belongings, but now you should be assur to eat all the fruit in the world. Why should you be over on your neder? Right? You made the neder, you were allowed to make it. And you're over on the neder. Fine. But keep the terms. Keep the terms of the neder. So when it says Baimer Hayom, no, he said just today, it's going to be today. So when it says Idamar Hayom, you think this tax collector is so stupid? You make a neder. Oh, by the way, if it's not the king's, I'm not going to eat fruit the entire day. He's going to say, okay, what kind of neder is that? Right? You'll eat it all tomorrow. He's not going to take that for you. So Baimer Beliboy Hayom, Umaitzi Bisvasav Stams. Now this is another major scam. In your heart, you say that it's Beliboy. If in your heart you say, I'm only assering it today. But when you tell the tax collector, you're telling that you're going to make another for the rest of your life. We know the rule that things in your heart are not tvarim. You can't just start thinking things in your heart and shooting things off in your mouth and be mad to that. Lagabi einsin shani. By einsin is different. Because since you're being forced into this anyways, so you're allowed to say one story with your mouth, and in your heart you mean something else. Meaning you can't do this in business, right? You can't just do this in business. When the guy asks you how many people you have, what's the rent roll? And you say, oh, the rent roll is $10 million, and really it's 5, but because in your heart, though, you only meant 5, but you told him 10, right? I mean, that would be a nice scam. Doesn't work. It only works in this situation where the guy is forcing you. Now the kasha that, okay, I mean, I didn't, this is I don't want to go involved and get everybody confused, but there's a pasha to kasha. If we said, remember we said over the last week, there are a few nedarim you're allowed to make, and it doesn't mean it's the neder, like when you're in negotiations. So you're allowed to make a neder because that doesn't mean a neder. It's just a way of negotiating. So the kol shekain, What's the Gemara asking that he should have to keep his neder? He didn't mean to keep his neder. He was just doing it. It's not worse than a negotiation, right? If a negotiation, you're allowed to lie and say, I'm making neder, I'm not going less than 3, right? Less than $3. And the other guy says, I'm not going higher than $1. And we said it's mutter. So then how can this not be mutter? Right? Okay, but that's a kasha.
Aren't those b'diavad?
Those are b'diavad. This is also b'diavad.
This is l'chatchila, no?
Yeah. Well, the way we say in the Mishna, it's l'chatchila. Yeah, that's. But I think, is that one of the terutzim? I think. I don't know. I don't remember. Okay, fine.
But now we get I'm following up on what I said earlier. I know we say Dvarim Shabbalim Eden Dvarim, but don't we also have a yisoid of you have to have piv v'li by shavin? How do those two ideas reconcile, just in general?
How do you ever understand that? I don't know.
Meaning, if you say Dvarim Shabbalim Eden Dvarim, then who cares about piv v'li by shavin? That it has to be. Why should it be piv v'li by shavin? Who cares about your heart? Whatever you said, you said. And whatever the stomach of what you're saying is, that's the way it is. Why do you have to piv v'li by shavin? Your lave means nothing.
Well, there is a concept of it being something. So we're
those
saying
those
here,
are stereotypical concepts. If you say Dvarim Shabalev Edom Dvarim, then why does your lave affect your piv? Why do you have to piv v'li by shavin? Whatever you said, that's what it means. Whatever the plain understanding of whatever your words are, that's what it means. Why do you have to piv v'li by shavin?
And a chanami, I don't know. I don't know how this works. To be honest with you, I don't know how it works. I mean, it's coming up. The lies are coming next week. Was it next week's parsha with Yaakov and Yitzchak with the brachas? Is this week's parsha? Next week's parsha? Not this week's parsha. This week? Where he says ani, right? Ani b'char. Yeah, I'm only up to shame. This week. So there you go. So I'm saying, what is that? Right. So what is that? I mean, it's not a lie, but okay, whatever it is. Beis Shamai, so we get a freebie for the next 5 lines for whatever reason. The Gemara decides to quote the half the Mishnah. Beis Shamai b'chol chulu. Beis Shamai b'mashu madiroi. You could only make the neder what he makes. You have a neder. Beis Hillel af b'sheina madiroi. You could even make a neder what he doesn't make. You make another. Ketzad Omer like kainam ishti. Naneisili. I'm making a neder that my wife won't get hana from me if this stuff doesn't belong to the king. Or it's truma, and he answers him back. He says, I'm making a neder on my wife and my kids. Nanenli. So B'Shamai ishtem mutaras ubanav assur, and his wife is mutter and the kids are assur. Beis Hillel elu ve'elu mutarin. Right? That's a quote from the Mishna. So Amar Rav Huna. So now the Gemara asks a stira in Beis Shamai. Tana Beis Shamai lo yiftach lo b'shvua. Beis Shamai says you're not allowed to make a shvua. You're allowed to make a neder as a sheker. You're not allowed to make a shvua. Beis Hillel af yiftach lo b'shvua. Beis Hillel says you can even make a shvua. Right, Beis Shamai b'shvua hu delay yiftach. So it's mashma that according to Beis Shamai you only can't make a shvua. You can't lie with a shvua. Hab neder yiftach lo, but with a neder you could. But with Hatanah we have a different Mishnah. Beis Shamai lo yiftach lo b'neder. Right, that you can't start with a neder. The su miftach hu delay yiftach lo b'shvua. And it says that it's only that you can't start with a shvua. Mashma hamed or neder b'shvua, but you could make a neder with the shvua, right? But non b'shamay b'chol neder chutz mi b'shvua. You're allowed to make a neder with everything except for a shvua. Meaning, so the mashmayas is in the beginning that a shvua would be okay, and then meaning if it's not initiated, and then in the other Mishnah says that it would be okay, so it's a stira. So when I answer Tana Mastisim ben Neder Laidiach Karcha de Beis Shamai. It's the same. The reason why it says a neder in the Reisha is to tell you the koyach of Beis Shamai. The Beis Shamai says that you're not even allowed to make a neder. Tana braysa b'shvua Laidiach Karcha de Beis Hillel. And therefore it says the braysa of shvua to tell you the koyach of Beis Hillel, that Beis Hillel even allows shvua. Meaning we're making a stira between the Mishna and the braysa. I said both Mishna before. It means one's a Mishna, one's a braysa, where it sounds like According to one, Beis Shamai says a shavua you can't initiate, but a neder yes, and the other one says no, you can't even do a shavua. So we're saying no, the Machlokes is by both. But the Mishna says neder to tell you that Beis Shamai doesn't even let a neder, and the braysa says shavua to tell you that Beis Hillel even allows a shavua. That's one pshat. And Rav Ashi,
But Yaakov, why would we be? Didn't we say previously in the Dharm that the chamur we don't normally do.
Right, we don't do that.
Of the heter we do, but weiter, why would we do over here? And the Ran goes into a very specific case about why they were being mediach the chumrah. But normally we're not mediach chumras.
Correct.
Beis Shamai is a chumrah. Why would we be mediach chumrah? I understand why you're being mediach on the braysa kula over Beis Hillel.
Right. So I'm not sure how that works here, because here we are being mediach kula for Beis Hillel. So
no, I know that, but that's only the braysa. Mishna's mashma the opposite. That's the whole point
right.
of
So
the
I think that. Yeah, I think the two are when they. I have no idea what I'm saying now, but I think when the two are connected, then it's the same koyach, meaning it's the same machlokes. So as long as one of them is a kula, that's enough. But I have no idea if what I'm saying is correct, right? But yeah, okay. The Rav Ashi's teretz says Rav Ashi, this is what it says: Beis Shamai Yomrim ein sheila b'shvua, a whole different din. The machlokes has nothing to do with anything. What he's seeing with being with our Mishna. Beis Shamai says you're not allowed to go ask a Rav to take back your shvua. Like with a neder, we know if somebody makes a neder and he feels that he needs to back out, so he just makes the neder and that's it. I'm sorry. He goes to the chacham and the chacham is mata the neder, but you can't do that by a shvua. So Beis Shamai is saying there's no asking back a shvua. Beis Hillel says you are allowed to go ask a chacham to take back a shvua. Right, which is a major leniency for Beis Hillel. Fine. Okay. Next Mishnah, we're continuing making nedarim with a t'nai. So harei netiyas ha'elu. If a guy says these branches, we're going to see in the Gemara that basically it's very windy, so the guy assumes his trees are going to fall down. So he says that these trees harei netiyas ha'elu, or any growth. Netiyas really means growth, right? Ha'elu, or the plantings really. If these trees don't fall down, they're going to be karbonos. Talis carbon and this talis, right? This clothing will be a carbon if it's not going to get burned. Meaning he's just assuming that these things are gone. So he says if they're not gone, I'm making them into chacham. So yesh and pidyon. Then they're going to have to be redeemed, meaning they're going to have to be redeemed. So, and meaning they're hekdesh, which the Gemara is going to ask, why don't you just say that they're hekdesh? Fine. Then the next case is carbon stam. He says, until these things are cut, he's making a t'nai now. Until these trees or these planting are cut, right? They're going to be hekdesh. Talazu carbon achetisara. This talis is going to be hekdesh until it's burned. It's on to Beis now. Ainla and pigeon, they do not have pigeon, meaning what we're going to see in tomorrow's daf, Bez Hashem, what that means, but means that they're hekdesh forever. Seemingly they're hekdesh forever. Which the Gemara is going to ask, what do you mean forever? Okay, so then the Gemara asks, for listening kedushin, if kedusha is vein kedusha, meaning why does the Reisha and the Mishna say that they need pidyon? If they need pidyon, it means they're kaddish. So why don't you just say kedushas vein kedushas? So the one answers, I did the boy lemisna seifa ain lam pidyon tananami reisha yesh lam pidyon. You're right. It could have said kedusha, but since in the seifa the last words in the Mishna say that there's no redemption, so therefore wanted to use the same terminology, but really it could have used the terminology that it's hekdesh. So Gemara asks, like it asked on Amar Aleph, Heichi Nodar, what kind of neder is that? Right? Meaning every tree falls down at some point. This guy's making a neder that what? That these trees are, if they don't fall down, they're going to be hekdesh. Every tree falls down at some point, right? So what does that mean? So what it says, if they don't fall down today because it was such a windy day, And the day passed and they weren't cut, so therefore they're still going to need a pidyon. So when it says, okay, what's the hekdesh? I mean, he said if they don't fall down today, they're hekdesh. So of course they're hekdesh. It's pasha. The guy makes a neder that if the tree doesn't fall down today, it's hekdesh, and it doesn't fall down, so it's hekdesh. But answers like going to ika zika nafisha. We're talking about where there was a lot of wind, right? So the chiddush is even though the wind pashtus would make it fall down, right? And so you would say that okay, that's what he's doing. So
I gotta tell you, I'm very nervous there when you said Zika. Very nervous.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't had it. It's been a 6 months since we had Zika, no? But so anyway, so that's why it's in his das that it's going to fall down. Meaning, and in his head, he only meant it because of the storm. But if the storm wouldn't knock it down, he didn't mean that forever. Kamash Malone was saying, no, it does. It's still a neder, even though it was so obvious that it was gonna fall down. It's still meaning, and he only meant it because of the crazy winds. But if the crazy winds would stop, he would have never made this neder. Still, it's considered a neder. Right? So when it says, and then it proves this, and then the same thing is by talis. The talis is sreifa kaima. Why would anybody think that a talis is going to be burned? So you have a talis sitting in your closet. So why would anybody think that talis should be burned? Right? So we say yes. In kagoin the ika deleka. Wasn't talking about stama talis. It was a fire, and he thought, okay, the fire is going to nail this talis. So too here we're talking about where there's a lot of wind, and that was his neder, right? That if the wind doesn't get to it, so then he's going to donate it to the Beis Hamikdash. Okay.
It's a very shver lashon. The Gemara normally would say dekanami, because this is a bring a raya.
This is Nedarim, right? Akiva?
This is Nedarim.
That's what you're going to say.
It's using a very lashon the Gemara normally does not use.
Correct, 100%. Yeah, and then the Gemara says, we would have thought the Masagadaite delay misnatzlan. He thought these things are never going to get saved because the fire is going to burn the talis, or the wind is going to blow down the trees. And that's why he's making a neder. But if he would have thought that this talis would have survived the fire, or the trees would have survived the wind, then you would think that okay, so maybe he didn't make a neder. Kamash Malan, that it is considered a neder, and therefore the trees are hekdesh and the talis is hekdesh if it survives. If it falls down, then his taka stays his. Only if it survives does it become hekdesh. Okay, so it's not good to start the next Gemara because it's about a blot and a half long sugya. All right, so okay.
Yaakov.
Have yourselves a fine night. Okay, good to know. Yes, yeah.
I didn't say it before by the beginning of the last mission because I didn't want to hold up the island, but there was a Bugsy Goldstein who was a Murder Incorporated who got the electric chair for murdering people. He lived on top of my Zadie's grocery store, and he would sometimes help my Zadie bring in the milk crates in the morning. So you see, he did a chesed even though he was a murderer.
Right. I think you once told me that. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I told you once because it fits into a lot of situations.
Doesn't he have one of those lamps in that old Shvial stock? The Yurtzeit plaque?
What?
No, I'm telling you later. You're talking about Bugsy Siegel. Two different Bugsies.
Oh, two different Bugsies.
Bugsy Siegel. Yeah, Bugsy Siegel put in a thing right in the Bial stock because it had the same yard set as Zadie or something like that. But if you look up Bugsy Goldstein's Matsever, which I did because they have a website for the mob Matsevers, Bugsy Goldstein says a beloved son and husband, and he was a kohen, and they have the kohen's thing on his Matsever.
But he was a murderer.
Yeah, he got the electric chair.
Must be
I'm not too bad then. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I hear you. All right, let me go hear some drushes now. All right.
As long as you're not making it, it's fine.
As long as I'm not making it, that's right. I'm
But
not
see,
making any
Yaakov, I
donuts,
can't
I'm
tell you
just
how
making
many
speeches.
people. I can't tell you people
Yeah.
sent me that same picture from MKY statuses. I must
So
have got like
stupid, isn't
6
it?
people sending me it.
Whatever. Yeah, I can't. Isn't it crazy how bored this world is?
I mamish don't understand it. This guy doesn't. He wasn't even at the wedding. He just gets this stuff and he puts it together and posts it on his status.
Yeah.
Who was sitting next to you besides Liner?
Oh, my uncle Skolnick, my uncle. Huh? Listen, at least they didn't say I was on Zoom. Maybe they would put me in Chayrim for that. No.
It's Yaakov. Your iPad was right there. It's not like maybe they didn't see that.
Right. What? Yeah.
I said they didn't see your iPad.
Some did, some didn't. Who knows what they see? Who knows? Anyways, all right. Have yourself a good one.